Okay, so welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next super stock, a live stream September 30th. We are back with Ryah Group, RYAHF, over the counter RYAH on the CSE. And again, this is, potentially our next 10 bagger. Potentially, we're looking for we've had, again, 7 or 8. We're looking for number 9. We want to close out 2021 with 10 baggers officially. So we're going to find out if Ryah is going to be one. Again, so these companies, they have 3 things in common. Our next super stocks. 1, going after multi-billion-dollar market opportunities, so massive addressable markets. They're at a key inflection point right now in their growth, ready to launch new products, entering new markets. And 3, there's multiple catalysts in place, things that can ignite that shareholder share price appreciation. And this is why Ryah is here. I think we're expecting some big news flow. That's one of the reasons why you're on. So with that, Greg, I look for anybody that's new. We got a lot of new people probably joining. In a nutshell, what does Ryah do? What's the big market opportunity you're addressing?
Yeah, so Ryah is a IoT device and digital care platform in plant-based medicine. Our goal is to collect complex, captive patient data points so that doctors and clinics and hospitals and regulators can understand the effects of plant-based medicine on patients, and especially that doctors and clinics can create those highly personalized and highly customized dosing regimens that they've been trying to chase for years. As I mentioned last time, Jack, Ryah is in a unique position because we have both devices and data. If you remember last time I talked about either you're digging for gold or you're selling pickaxes, we have both. That's why sometimes it's challenging for us to compare ourselves to peers, because we have great device peers and competitors in the street, great multi-billion-dollar data analytics companies, but none of them have both in this space except us, as far as we know. And I want to just go over one more point before we get into a demo. We do have those 4 competitive moats that I will continue to drill into our audience every day. Number 1, we own all of our IP. Jordan and his team own the IP. We don't license our hardware out to anybody, and all of our software is developed in-house under Jordan's team. Number 2, this is a medical device story. This is not a recreational play. We are a medically inspired company with certifications in the queue, which will allow us eventually to have statutory insurance reimbursement for our devices. Once we get that, Jack, those devices become less price sensitive because the patients will be able to be reimbursed. Number 3, this is not a cannabis story. We are not married to cannabis. We're a device and data story, and we can put other medicines inside our devices. We partner with medicine handlers who put their medicine in our devices, and we provide and they distribute to their patient network. So you're looking at potential opportunities in nutraceuticals, vitamin D patches potentially for people who will be interested in using it for COVID prevention. You're looking at melatonin patches. We're looking at things like psilocybin patches and other types of medicine. So it's important that our audience knows that we are much more than a cannabis company, much more than a one-trick device company. We're multi-device, agnostic to medicine, and we're becoming agnostic to the delivery type as well. And of course, number 4, this is, again, a device and data story. That is the difference between us and everybody else. We're not trying to help close the data gap in this space. Regulators are not clear on the efficacy of cannabis. The cannabis plant is constantly evolving, very difficult to determine how it affects different demographics. We're trying to lead the industry globally, Jack, in closing the data gap in this space. And ultimately, this will become a data play. This is a data story. We don't like to look at ourselves like a PAX. We like to aspire ourselves as a Palantir or a Periscope data or a Snowflake data, and that's where we're going.
Medical data, so it's for drug development. So this is huge money in drug development data.
It's huge money in understanding, yes, and unlocking the secrets, potentially helping big pharma make medical breakthroughs in this space using our data. That's the inflection point we want to get to. Enough critical mass that data is worth renting out, and that's where we're going. By 2025, I expect 50% of this company's revenues will come from data analytics and software, not just hardware. That's what.
Is this kind of related to like that? What is it? Personalized medicine? Is this kind of touching in that space? Is this kind of in that or?
100%. The goal is to analyze patient demographics, patient dosing, patient feedback, all cross-reference with the lab results of each plant or each medicine, and that will help doctors create the right titrations. Customization is the next wave in clinical trials. It's the next wave in dosing. It's going to be used to really drill down into making optimal dosing regimens so that patients don't overdose, they don't misuse, and it will be customized by different demographics accordingly.
Now,
so
I was gonna say, before we get into the demo, I actually was, how I don't think I asked you before. Is the medical data for drug development, the data that these guys, how big is the market opportunity? Like, what are some of the companies that are doing this? There's got to be some there's some comps. I know there's some. I can't think of them offhand, but I know there's some huge numbers because anytime they do, there's also what is it, DNA modeling. Well, there's a lot. It's a very sophisticated business.
Multi-billion-dollar. I mean, the medical device market is about 400 billion, and that alone. And then if you're looking at data analytics, that's a whole different $500 billion plus market that we're actually touching both. And then you're looking at a third market of wellness lines that we are looking to get into. So you're right. There is this whole ecosystem of data, patient DNA, of medicine DNA, and then the effects of the patient and the medicine together. And that's where we come in. We bring both of those home. The harmony of our software, the firmware and hardware will allow the doctors not only understand how different formulations affect them in different graphics, but did the formulation change over time that it affected that patient? What was the difference between the harvest date of that plant and the dosing date? Did it affect that demographic differently? There's so many data points to unpack. We've only just started. And honestly, we're working with Moore's law now, and our innovations are becoming half as timely as they used to be, and the data is becoming more powerful.
Okay, Greg, you know what? Let's jump into that demo. I want people to see what you're doing. If they see it, and then they're going to have questions. So let's get that demo on the screen, and then hopefully we'll get some good audience questions.
All right, here's what we're going to do. Jordan's going to run the demo. We're going to do a video because we're compressing 2.5 devices into a 7-minute session, but we're not going to just run the video because people will fall asleep. We're going to stop it. We're going to pause. We'll even allow for questions, so it'll run longer, but the video will help us paint the picture in a short period of time and then allow us to commentary over. That's why we're going to do this demo. So I'm going to share that now. And Jordan, while you're doing that, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to set the stage before we jump into this video, as a IoT data technology company, what we've done is we've created a 3-part IoT ecosystem that applies to all of our devices. So the IoT ecosystem is number 1, the hardware. So the hardware is what facilitates that dose control or that dose monitoring experience. The second part of that IoT ecosystem is the QR embedded medicine. So it's important to know that we don't touch cannabis or medicine directly, but what we do is we work directly with cannabis suppliers, and we give them the software to generate QR codes that lets them embed the lab test results of their products into a QR code, which works with our third component, the mobile app. So the mobile app lets people scan that QR code, track the exact product that they're using. It also allows them to fine-tune their dosing parameters within their device. And it also allows them to record their feedback. So after they're done using one of our products along with one of the specific cannabis medicines that they've used, they can record how they feel, and all of that gets tied back to their dose, to the product that they use, to the device that they use. And then, all of that data is analyzed to help, researchers, growers, patients better understand how all those variables affect different patient demographics.
That's right. So let's show you it in practice, and we're going to use this video as a tool to guide us. I'm going to share my screen right now, and let me know, Jack, when you can see it.
And so for this video, we're going to be showing off our dry herb inhaler. We're going to be showing off our smart patch, and we're going to be showing off our smart pen, which is a smart liquid dispenser tincture style.
So Greg, I'm gonna disappear, and you do the commentary.
We'll do the commentary,
and I'll come back for Q&A.
We're going to stop at every minute or so. We've got a cadence here, and feel free to jump in, but let's get it rolling. Here we go.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to give you all a closer look at our devices in action, starting with the Ryah inhaler. As you saw in our previous slides, all of our products revolve around a three-part ecosystem of the device, the medicine, and of course the mobile application, which users use to interact with the device and control their entire experience. So what I'm gonna do is I'll scan a cartridge, insert it into the device, set a temp, set a dose, and record how I feel after that session. Just to begin, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and scan this cartridge. So immediately it scans my cartridge and recognizes it.
So what I just showed there is us scanning the QR code with that dry herb cartridge. So that cartridge inside contains ground dry herb, and that QR code has a certain amount of THC in it, a certain amount of CBD, a certain amount of terpenes. And when you scan that QR code, the app automatically knows the exact strain that you're using and all of those percentages, and it could be tied back directly to the session that you had, which is important for when we continue on in terms of dosing.
Yeah, think about this as a white slate of paper here. You're looking at a cannabis story, but the QR codes can be modified for any formulation. We're not bound by that, but we're using that because it's an easy tool to guide the audience. But again, think wider here. Let's open up our lenses to a wider lens of multi-formulations here, which our software team can develop with ease.
Next, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna pop this open right here. I'm gonna take my cartridge, pop that open as well. Pop the tube open, take the cartridge out, insert it into the device, close the chamber door, and just like that, we have a cartridge that's ready to go.
So the inhaler has a sensor on that bottom chamber door. So after you scan the QR code, you open that chamber, insert the cartridge and close it. The device now knows the exact product that you're using, and just eliminates any potential user error with tracking the right product when you're using it with our device.
So I'm going to begin heating, and while I heat up, I'm going to explain the how the app works. So the app revolves around two main screens. We have our temperature screen, and we have our dosing screen. So this is temperature and this is dose. Our temperature screen allows patients to set any temperature they want from 300 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And our dosing screen allows patients to set a limit as to how much they want to inhale so they don't accidentally overconsume and experience unwanted effects. So
controlling the temperature and controlling the dose in terms of the inhaler is extremely important for getting a milligram dose. And I'll talk more about that. When you're controlling the temperature, you're actually dictating the boiling points of the various cannabinoids and terpenes that will be activated. That's very important in controlling the experience that a user is going to have with their product. Now, with the dosing, our device has a volumetric airflow sensor built right into it. So every time that you inhale, air passes through this airflow intake valve up through the heating chamber and out through the mouthpiece. And we're able to record exactly how much you're inhaling with each inhalation. And when you combine the 3 data set points of the lab test percentages of the product, the exact temperature that you're vaporizing the dry herb at, and the volume of each inhalation, you're able to combine those to calculate in real time how many milligrams of THC, CBD, any cannabinoid, and any terpene that you're inhaling, which nobody has been able to do yet. So this is extremely novel.
Right, and one final point, what you're looking here is a device that's controlled by the patient. The patient is setting the temperature, the patient is setting the milliliters to be inhaled. It's more of an open platform to allow the patients to sort of use doctors' recommendations to start small and go slow. But with the launch of RYAH MD, which is a full patient-doctor collaboration portal, which is coming out very soon, the doctor can control the dose and the temperature by sending a message to the patient's app. Ultimately, the patient will approve the prescription or recommendation, depending on where you are. And then the temperature will be set and the dosing will be set by the doctor's recommendation. So we have the opportunity to give the patients an opportunity to try to find their own dosing, ideal dosing capabilities. And then of course, RYAH MD will have the doctors making it locked in at the doctor's prescriptions and their recommendations.
If I jump into the presets, you'll see that we do have some built-in presets for the temperatures. You know, we have our high, our lows, and a balanced temperature preset. But for our dosing, we have kind of two different modes. We have an unlimited preset, which is the default. And then think of that as like a Fitbit mobile application where it's just tracking in the background how much you inhale. We also do have session preset limits that once you inhale a certain amount, the device will tell you that you reached your dose. You can create your own presets if you want to. I went ahead and I just set a small dose, 225 mils, just for demo purposes. We actually just reached our desired temperature. Now that I am ready to begin inhaling, I'm going to swipe over to the dosing screen. And when I inhale, you'll see that it tracks in real time how much I'm inhaling. Unlike other quote unquote dose measuring vaporizers that really just beep after 5 seconds, this actually uses a volumetric airflow sensor. So if I inhale very gently, it's very, very sensitive. All of this is real-time feedback. The app can even tell me, you know, how many draws I've taken and how much I've inhaled per draw for even more accurate statistics. Just to conclude this session, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to reach my dose. When I reach my dose, the app tells me that my session is complete. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish it and take you through a session review.
All right, so before we jump into the session review, just want to recap what you guys just saw there. So what you saw was the raw volume amount that that was inhaled during that session. And like I said before, when you're combining the exact temperature of what you're vaping at, the lab test results of the product that you're using, and the volume that you inhale, you can actually determine the milligrams of a cannabinoid or a specific terpene. And the overall goal, which we're doing right now with RYAH MD, is giving users the ability to know, okay, if I inhale this specific volume at this temperature, I'm gonna get my X milligram dose of THC that my doctor prescribed, or my X milligram dose of CBD that my doctor wants. And what's cool about that is that it's all dynamic. So if you have a strain that has 20% THC, or a strain that has 12% THC, we can adjust on the fly how much you should inhale at what temperature, so that you could standardize that milligram dose.
Yeah, so very quickly, what we're looking at is from the patient's perspective, but on the other side, you have the doctors looking at the same data in real time. The doctors can see patient demographics, and of course, the dosing, how many milliliters inhaled, what temperature was set, how many draws per session, how many milliliters per draw. All of that data is important for the doctors to be able to understand how do we narrow down to the ideal dosing regimen? What is the right temperature? What is the right strain? What time of day versus the different demographics? All of this is critical, but let's not underestimate what Jordan just said about the milligram to milliliter conversion model. In RYAH MD, doctors will recommend THC or CBD or whatever in milligrams. That's the standard doctor protocol, and the patient will know immediately what it means to them in milliliters to be inhaled. It is so novel, guys, that we are patenting that. It's patented within our overall device patent. The milligram to milliliter conversion model has never been done before in this business. and to allow the doctors to have no roadblocks in determining how much they are normally used to prescribing and what the patients now can confidently inhale. It's groundbreaking work, and that is what we're doing with the University of Milan to further validate that conversion curve. Good?
Yeah.
Okay.
It gives me a nice overview of the session that I just had. It's going to ask me, how was my session overall? How were you feeling, both mentally and physically? And you can record either good or bad, depending on how you're feeling. So if you had a strain that negatively affected you, you could record that and know for the future what to avoid. Physical effects as well. And last but not least, you can rate the symptoms of your medical condition on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being better, 0 being worst. That is a session review that allows us to understand how these different temperatures, doses, strains are affecting patients. Our growers get access to this data. Of course, that data is available for researchers to figure out how these different cannabinoids and terpenes affect different patient demographics at different temperatures, different doses.
I think maybe some people are starting to sense a theme. But yeah, what you just saw right there is the post-session questionnaire. Lets users track how they feel after a session, lets them tie it back to the specific strain that they used, the dose that they inhaled. That data can be shared with the QR code creator who supplied the medicine. And if your doctor is a RYAH MD doctor, they can have that data shared with them as well. The session review is just meant to be a very simple, very easy to fill out questionnaire that should take no more than 10 seconds to submit, and everything's standardized. So there's no typing in anything. You just tap on how you feel, and the analytics, the way that it's presented in our backend dashboard is just very easy to see. You can see, for example, 40% of users who vaporized this product, felt this way, and they can go and modify it by temperature. So you could say, all right, now if we take a look at people who vape that product at this temperature range, here's how they feel, and then you could adjust by dose accordingly. So there's an infinite amount of data points that you can get from this. But the other thing that I think is really cool is that we love clinical trials. We think our devices and our IoT ecosystem are perfect for facilitating on-site or remote clinical trials. And what we offer as a service are custom software solutions that can implement custom questionnaires that are tailor-made for the study. So if you're a researcher, you're trying to conduct a specific study and you want to ask a specific question to a patient, you could go ahead and do that with us. So rather than being limited to our default questionnaire, you can just upload your own, personalized questionnaire. And again, those answers will be tied back to the exact session that the patient had. And you could do tons of, you could go as crazy as you want. You could do baseline questionnaires. You could do scheduled weekly questionnaires, quarterly questionnaires, in addition to that post-session questionnaire. So the amount of data that can be collected can be, nobody's ever done anything like this before. We're really, really excited about it.
We need to understand, again, the software component is a double win for us. So we have created a customized software solution for our UK partner in a clinical trial, a very large one. We are finishing another one for the country of France for a large distributor, where obviously it's language specific. We have Italian, German, French, Netherlands is coming, Spanish is also coming. But these customized mobile application software are a double win for us because all of our software developers are in-house, so we retain all of the revenues from the statement of work associated with software development. And of course, if they're going to use customized software that are linked to our RYAH devices, well, we know they're buying devices as well. So this custom capability allows us to lock in both hardware and software revenues. And we're not shy about creating custom software solutions. We're good at it. We have a wide lens. We can do it globally. And for the right trials, a lot of these work well for mitigating any variables associated with patient data in these trials.
Yeah. Also,
yeah. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, I was gonna, okay. Actually, okay. I was going to ask about the revenue model, the business model. some questions coming in.
Sure.
Jordan, you were going to say something? I'm sorry, I interrupted here.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it could also help, our ecosystem can help validate the study and remove any variables and make sure that people are actually adhering to the protocol. So, if you're doing a remote dosing study with cannabis, someone could pack in their own medicine if they wanted to. They might not have to, if they're going on a website.
There's a lot of variables. I mean, it seems like I actually didn't know this, that the temperature makes it different. So there's a whole bunch of variables and this thing kind of does everything automatically for you.
The strain could be inconsistent. The temperature could be inconsistent. The patient forgets to do the questionnaires. All of this is locked into a closed loop ecosystem and making the clinical trials not only easier to handle, but actually makes them more valid. And so that's an important component. Again, we're not trying to chase the rec space. We're looking to dominate the clinical space. And there's a business there, and it's an important business.
And is this only, so essentially the device monitors anything based on inhalation, is that right? Is there any other way of?
We have other devices to show you. We got about 3 minutes left in the.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, so this is the dry herb inhaler. This is the inhalation route of administration. But we also have a patch, and we also have a dose measuring liquid dispenser that could be dispensed into your favorite drink, or it could be dispensed into the oral mucosal lining of your mouth and absorbed that way as well.
Each one of these devices, Jack, has its own customized mobile application because the titrations are different, the method of delivery is different. The questionnaires will probably be different in many cases. So we create, verticals, devices and software, and obviously the devices are the one-time big revenue stream, and then the recurring revenues are the patches or the cartridges that are, our recurring revenue over time. So it is really a razor blade model. Most of the audience has not seen the smart patch in action. And really, we are now finish our prototyping, and we are entering our production stage. So I think the patch will be pretty cool to see if you're ready. Let's do it.
And next we have some of our latest technology. This right here, RYAHF patch, you can see it's very thin, very comfortable and non-intrusive when you're wearing it. This right here is the patch. I actually have it in two different parts. This part right here is where our filling partners via syringe will apply the medicine, and then they will attach the release liner to the actual patch, which the patient buys as one product itself. The way that it'll work.
So really quick, that is a solution for cannabis suppliers who may not have a $100,000, patch formulation, piece of equipment. So, what we want to do is make it much more accessible for people who have the formulations but don't have the ability to create patches to actually do that with us. In addition to giving these suppliers the ability to create their own patches, we will also have our own line of patches as well.
A licensed producer can go from being just an oil provider to instantly becoming a topical patch provider. So what you're seeing here, Jack, is a reservoir style patch, which is what we give to our medicine handling partners. Again, we provide empty cartridges, empty patches, and they fill that with their medicine and they distribute to their patient network. We also have a nutraceutical line where we control the patch formulations. These are hydrogel patches, or maybe in adhesive and matrix patches that the formulation is licensed by us or owned by us, and we control the entire revenue stream associated with that. But on the medicine line, we work with the reservoir style patch so that's easy to fill. And again, it could be an instantaneous change to the formulations partners, economic vertical by adding another ancillary device to their formulations.
Work is patients will pair their device. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to search. And now we are paired. Just like the inhaler, it's going to ask to scan the patch. So I'm going to scan this patch QR code right here. It immediately recognizes the exact patch that you're going to use. It's going to tell you how much medicine is included, how long it's supposed to last, how well this formulation has worked for you in the past.
I think that's just a good point right there, is that, a lot of times when people wear patches, they have no idea how long they should wear it. They don't know how long the medicine is lasting. And one of the cool things about having a smart patch is that it could tell you exactly how much medicine is included, how long it's supposed to last, and it can even alert you as to when you should remove your patch. And then that way you never feel like, oh, am I taking it off too early? Or have I been wearing this for the past 4 hours and it hasn't been doing anything for me? With this app, it'll just make life a lot easier and you don't have to do any more guessing.
Just like the Ryah inhaler, but now for the patch. Something new with this app, though, is that we do ask where you're going to put the patch on your body. It allows you to better take control of your patch regimen. And when I tap on the right shoulder, it'll give me some stats based upon my previous reviews. Next, it'll tell me how to attach the patch.
I'm just going to pause right there. Where you put the patch on your body can actually play a significant role in how quickly you experience effects, how well it works for you. And doctors will recommend different site applications depending on your needs and the product that you're using. And this is just an easy way for patients to keep track of which site location works best for them, and to also just remember where they put it on last. Because a lot of times, you'll have a doctor say, okay, I want you to put the patch on your left wrist, and then the following day I want you to put it on your right wrist. That way you're not, using the same exact site location every single time. So the app will tell you, yesterday you wore it on your left shoulder. Would you like to wear it on your right shoulder? Just as an example.
Very simple. You just have this disposable patch right here, and you have the brain, and all you need to do is click it in place. And then all you need to do is, as a patient, there's a little liner right here that keeps the medicine from coming out of the patch. You just peel that off and you just put it on your shoulder. It will stick very, very well. We're using high grade 3M materials that are standard within the patch industry. One last thing that I wanted to show off was our boosting capabilities. You can control when you get that extra boost of medication via the mobile app. Based upon, when your symptoms are worse, we could create a custom boost schedule for you that will automatically boost the patch during those times of day. Just for demo purposes.
So that's one of the really cool things about this smart patch is you can do an on-demand boost for acute side effects. So if you're not getting the relief that you want, rather than having to have the urge to slap on another patch or take a secondary medication, you could go ahead, activate the boost. And what the boost is, if we haven't explained it clearly, is the hardware component, which we call the patch brain, has a heating element built directly into it. And when you activate the boost, it heats up, which increases the absorption rate of the formulation within the patch and makes it easier to pass through this semi-permeable membrane. So again, if you're not getting the effect that you want and you're having acute pain or any other symptom, you can go ahead and boost on demand. Or if you have symptoms that are predictable at certain times of the day, like for example, if you suffer from pain in the middle of the night, you're always waking up, you could wear your patch and set your patch to automatically intermittently boost throughout the night. Or if you wake up in the morning with extreme pain, you could set your patch to boost 30 minutes before your alarm goes off in the morning. That way you'll get an extra boost right before you wake up, so you wake up pain-free. And again, this is novel. Nobody's ever done this before. And we're hoping that it improves the experience that people have when using a patch.
So Jack and the audience, this is where we talk about game changers here. So what Jordan just basically said is you'll be able to turn on and off your dosing on your shoulder with your iPhone. That has never been done before in plant-based medicine. And I'll show you how. Each of these release liners have different porosities. So with different formulations, We can go from slow dose to almost absolutely no dose until you heat it. So think about a child with epilepsy or ADHD who goes through cycles of needing medicine quicker. Think about a truck driver who doesn't want to take a number of coffee breaks and he wants to stay awake because he has to ingest coffee and stop and go to the restroom. What if he had a caffeine patch that had limited his need to take more truck stops? This is a pharmaceutical chain that came to us on the idea. We didn't give it to them. That is the power of being able to control a transdermal or topical dose. And again, any formulation that has the right molecule size along with the viscosity and density associated with standard patch formulations will and should work. And we're working with different partners in the psychedelic space, nutraceutical space, female hormone therapy is possible. This is the future. And I cannot tell you, you should not underestimate the possibility of this patented technology. This is something that could really be game-changing in the topical space.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the on-demand boost by tapping on this button right here. It's going to show you how the temperature starts to increase in real time. And you'll see that this patch is now lighting up green to indicate that it's actually boosting. The temperature is warm enough to increase the absorption rate of the medicine through the transdermal layer of the skin, but not high enough to actually affect the composition of the medicine within the patch. So for patients who, are looking for an alternative to vaporizing, this patch right here is the perfect solution for on-demand relief. We have our RYAH pen. This is early in the prototype stage though, but I wanted to give you all just a sneak peek. Just like our slides show, this device will allow you to dispense a specific amount of liquid into your drink or directly into the mouth, whatever you prefer. It will have more information.
So with the RYAH pen is a smart pen that dispenses a very specific amount of liquid, either into your favorite drink or directly into your mouth. And the reason why that is important is because dosing with tincture is not always easy. You have a dropper that, someone will say take 3 drops, for example. Well, what is the size of a drop? You might accidentally squirt too much. Sometimes people will hear, take 3 drops, and they take 3 full droppers. I've heard that before. And so with our pen, you're going to get that exact dose, and there's going to be no confusion and no room for error. And it's just another route of administration to improve dosing and incorporate it into our IoT ecosystem.
So this can be used for, a whole range of medicines. You talk about liquid. So again, I think the key point, Greg, as you said earlier, this is not just cannabis. That you kind of started with the cannabis, but really now you're addressing pretty much, just about the full spectrum of how people intake medicines, except for pills.
Yeah. That's coming. That's coming too. But let me tell you this. Right. So we're trying to become agnostic. Again, data is the gold here, guys. So we're trying to become agnostic where we get enough critical mass and the data as value, as monetization value, where frankly, Jack, we want to just give these devices away. We want to get to the point where we can give the devices away and collect that data, monetize that data. Until then, we will sell those devices for profit at 100% markup, 50% margin on average, and same with the recurring revenue of the cartridges and patches, and let that model fund the future model, which is the data model. So,
reimbursable too.
Of course, and the medical certifications that we're pending on will allow these devices to be reimbursed.
Okay, so we got a bunch of questions coming in. Before we get into the questions, actually, hang on a second. So the revenue model. Let's go through the revenue model again, right? So right now, the revenue model is what? How are you making money with this, right? And how big is the opportunity for essentially each of these devices? Like who are your customers?
Our customers are doctors, clinics. Eventually we see large research centers, hospitals, elder care networks, We're looking at VA, PTSD. The VA wants to probably have a good idea of what they're administering for PTSD syndrome users. Eventually, looking to help lead the charge from a device perspective in mitigating opioid administration. As we all know, there are over 600 million opioid prescriptions provided in 2016. More Americans died overdosing from complex opioid drugs in the last 14 months than all of the Americans that died in the Vietnam War. We know that plant-based medicine is the future. We know culturally there's more acceptance. Regulatory is a little bit behind. Doctors are also behind because they lack the data to feel confident to administer at this scale, and that's the data gap we're trying to close. How do we make money? We sell those devices. It's a one-off charge. Then we sell the recurring revenue of the cartridges. And of course, as I mentioned before, as our wellness line comes out, we'll be selling the full complete finished product of the formulations, the nutraceuticals, the over-the-counter market, and frankly, the software, the customized software that we've been talking about today with our UK partner, our French partner, and more partners coming, has surprisingly been competing with the hardware revenues already. So you've got razor blade model, hardware and cartridges. You have software model and a developing enterprise data solution. When RYAH MD comes out, RYAH MD will be a subscription model for doctors to subscribe to be able to accurately and confidently prescribe medicine to patients. So there's a lot of models here, and some of them are established and some of them are evolving.
So dollar-wise, let's talk about the dollar-wise. Like what's, what can you generate in terms of revenues and how like what could we be looking at for investors to look at in terms of milestones? What kind of revenue milestones?
I think we just got out of the gate, and we are post revenue. We'll be a few $100,000 this year, but we're looking at easily 2 million probably in the next 12 to 14 months as all of our clinical trials start to kick in. I got to tell you, 2020 wasn't a fun year for us. Wasn't a fun year for anybody. A lot of clinical trials that were supposed to start were held back because of COVID crisis, and there was a lot more resources focused on that. Totally understandable. All of the deals that we were talking about in the last show are distribution agreements. These are not letters of intent. These are not memorandums of understanding. These are distribution deals often with minimums. Some of them we give exclusivity to, and they need to meet minimums to retain that exclusivity. But I do think, over the next few years, you're looking at, it could be 16 million in revenues from 3 years from now. And then as we pull in our enterprise data system, you can be looking at a much larger number. So we have aggressive revenue targets. We feel good about it. Every day we write code, Jack, so we're continually to separate ourselves from the rest of the pack. We haven't even talked about our ability to integrate biometrics, such as heart rate, and other potential biometrics in our application using Apple iWatch. There's other things that we're developing. So every day we continue to really further separate ourselves from the rest of the pack and continue to innovate. And we do expect that to sustain our aggressive revenue targets.
Okay, but now these numbers that you're talking about, they don't include the value of the data, the potential value of the data for
none of that does.
Okay,
No.
and that's really the upside in your model, right?
The upside is, the enterprise data solution will combine our patented AI technology. As we all know, we are the world's first patent ever granted in artificial intelligence and plant-based medicine data analytics. It's been granted, it's not pending. When we combine all of the data that we've gotten, you combine that with the AI technology to interpret that data, and then you have machine learning tools to allow for clinics, research universities, and big pharma to look into that data and hopefully make medical breakthroughs in plant-based medicine. That will be rented on an AWS HIPAA-compliant cloud per hour, per day, per month, per year. You're looking at the SaaS model as the ultimate solution for closing the data gap.
How much can you generate from that business?
I mean, you could be looking at eight, 9 figures. This could be a huge number if we get it right. You're looking at. We have 350,000 patients.
9 figures is that? That's over 100 million. Is that? I don't. No,
Look,
9. 8 is
if we can,
90.
right?
9 is 100 plus million.
If we can nationalize and create a federal program where clinical trials work on an interoperative system on RYAH, where a clinic in California and Florida and New York State are all working together, looking at the same efficacy goal in the same strain of cannabis, where cannabis can move across federal and state lines, which we're working on. Then you've got an interoperable framework that can get scale and leverage in providing data that could be breakthrough data. And we think that data, when you unlock that, has a huge value, huge value. And again, we're looking at this more like less like a PAX and more like a Palantir, more like a Periscope data, where we think an evolving plant with an evolving demographic and an evolving dosing regimen is extremely valuable for not only doctors and clinics, but for big pharma and for governments and regulators.
Okay, let's jump into some audience questions.
Sure.
This is the big highlight here. Okay, so Mike is asking, what's the retail price of your device? Can a retail person buy this?
They cannot.
Can Mike buy this? No.
This is a clinical device, right? So we're waiting for our ISO 1345 certification. It would retail. It would wholesale for $199 US and retail for $299 US normally. Obviously, for larger deals, we have manufacturing deals where we can have a lower price. That is in line with other medical devices. Actually, it's on the lower end of 2 to 3 other medical device competitors. So again, statutory insurance reimbursement should make that less of an impact.
Marcel is asking, can a device red flag to a physician, to a doctor, if a user is trying to over-medicate?
Good question, Marcel. Here's the deal. Let me give you the UK example. For the UK clinical trial, we created customized APIs that delivered information directly to the clinic's EHR system, hundreds of APIs that Jordan and his team developed, so that if a patient is not doing well on the trial or if they misuse the product, the clinic gets a Slack notification and an EHR notification immediately advising the clinic to either reduce the dosing or take the patient off the trial. Now, that is a critical component for that trial to be approved by the UK regulator. And that is exactly what RYAHF is designed to do, Marcel. It's designed to monitor patient dosing. And if the patients misuse it, overuse it, then they could lose their prescription. One more example. In the Jersey Islands off the coast of the United Kingdom, we have a deal with Medican. Medican is a ring-fenced clinic in the Jersey Islands, and they have a problem. When they prescribe 10 grams of THC or 10 grams of flower, the patient sometimes will use 5 grams and sell 5 grams on the black market. So what Medican is doing is saying, prove to me on the app that you've dosed your 10 grams or you're not getting another dose. So we're working with them and other countries to prevent misuse, overuse, and even potentially mitigate the black and gray markets.
Is this a follow-up? Can the dose changes be remotely controlled by the physician?
That's a future, go ahead, development, Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's another functionality of RYAHF. RYAHF is meant to empower doctors with the ability to prescribe a specific milligram dose of either THC or CBD via our flower inhaler, as well as our smart patch and our pen later on down the line. And we make it very, very easy. So the doctor can go ahead and say, all right, I want this patient to consume an X milligram dose. The software then guides them to select the strain that the patient is going to be consuming. And then it will tell the doctor, okay, for this milligram dose with this particular strain, you have this temperature range available. And when you select the temperature range, here's how much your patient will have to inhale. There's tons of information that helps the doctor better understand what all those parameters mean and how they could potentially affect their patient. And it makes it very easy for the doctor to just go ahead and hit submit, and that dose is then sent over to the patient's app where they can literally just accept it and everything will automatically be set for them. And then once they consume that dose, the doctor will be able to basically query that session info, so they'll see exactly how their patient is consuming and if they're adhering to their dosing regimen or not, which I think ties back to that original question.
Okay. We got a comment or okay, so Jason is saying, wow, this product would be an excellent fit with True Trace Applied DNA. I think those are companies, right? A DNA tag on the plant, blockchain, genomic rights testing throughout, and QR code for customer to check.
Yes.
Currently in a Shoppers Drug Mart trial, QR. So, okay.
With Jason, we're on the same page. You know, Jason's talking about is not only C2.
Can you explain what he's talking about in case anybody doesn't know what is Jason?
This is exactly what you spoke about before, Jack. You're talking about, you know, getting the DNA analysis on the patient. What is their endocannabinoid system able to handle in terms of, you know, taking implant-based medicine? Getting the genetics of the seed of the plant and maybe find a match with the right patient's CBD receptors and the plant's DNA and the overall strain. All of that, seed to sale, seed to consumption, is an ecosystem that if we get it tight, we could get rid of these words like blue dream and Charlotte's Web, which don't mean anything, and really get a genomic code on these strains and match those strains with the right CBD to CB1 receptors of each patient. And that fit is a very powerful capability. We would need partners there to do that. Again, we're good at devices and data, not so good at growing plants. And we are in formulation partners. We don't make any amends to that, but we are looking for that symbiotic relationship that Jason was referring to, where you can actually get the DNA of the plant and really sort of get the DNA of the person with the help of clinical partners, and we can put all that together and really monitor the dosing and titration. It's a beautiful story.
And really quick, I would just love to add to that is the industry so far has been limited to what is known as seed to sale data. And that's, you know, tracking the plant all the way from, you know, when it was grown, when it was harvested, to when it was sold. And now we've created a new data point called seed to consumption data, where now with our IoT devices, we're actually able to track the seed all the way through to consumption and understand how the patient feels after recording a specific dose. So it's a new data set that hasn't been available in the cannabis industry yet, and it is that missing link. And so I think they make a good point. Yeah. You know, all those other companies do a good job of tracking the product, and we help finish that off by tracking it through consumption.
The patient, yeah.
Okay. Steve is saying this is Omnipod diabetic. I'm not sure. What is it? Is that a device?
There is a device that is used for administering diabetes medicine. I understand that that's a micro needle solution where it penetrates the skin. I could be wrong, but we're not penetrating the skin. It's not in vitro. This is going to probably be a class 2 medical device designed to be useful for a wide range of nutraceuticals and medicines, and not you know, sort of that type of one type of medicine. The product itself will not be combined with the medicine as a IP, as a patent or IP. It's just a device, and then we find the formulation partners who want to use that device separately.
Okay, we got a great question here. Seems like so the hard contracts are 6 to 12 months away. Okay, I get what I think what he's asking is, okay, here's the bottom line. What is going to drive the share price in the near term? Okay, so notice, what is the stock worth right now? How do we value this business? Is it based on, is it going to be based on the future, on the revenues or multiples of revenues, or is it based on the value of the IP, the enterprise value of the IP? Like, what is, how do investors understand how to value the stock?
Yeah, I mean, you should be looking at this as the future right now. We're on Wall Street Reporter today because we are today at an inflection point. Okay, so as I mentioned, the inflection point is, number one, we are on the verge of having ISO 1345 medical device certification. We've been audited. We're confident that we will be a medically certified company under ISO 1345 and MDSAP, Medical Device Standard Order Procedure. Well, what does that mean? That means that is the baseline for us to go to different countries, starting with Canada, then Australia, then the United Kingdom, and then obviously MDR in Europe for medical device certification, really around the world. We will expect to be, Jack, the first company, maybe the only company, to have both our hardware and our software to be certified as a medical device. Okay, so that's critical. Hardware and software to be certified as a medical device. That medical device certification strategy is happening now. The next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, there'll be a number of different certifications that we will be expecting to achieve that allow this company to have statutory insurance reimbursement. Now, that leaves us with 1 or 2 competitors in the world. Being a medical device company in this space is really hard work, okay? Because you're dealing with a product like cannabis, for example, that isn't federally homogeneously approved around the world. And then you also have medical device certifications you have to navigate through. So there are only 2 competitors for a reason, because it's hard work. And number 2, the reason why now is important is because this smart patch, along with the wellness line associated with that, the wider revenue stream, is happening now. The launch is imminent. So you're looking at products, and RYAH will probably be ready by the end of the year, easily. So that has also been 18 months in production. You've got 2 major products coming, medical device certification, and obviously the enabling of statutory reimbursement. Now, as I mentioned before, the COVID crisis halted a number of our clinical trials. The UK clinical trial is quite large, it's very ambitious. It's targeting around 50,000 patients over 5 years. But what's more important about that clinical trial, why we see revenues really moving up as a hockey stick, is because in year 3 of this 5-year trial, the initial findings of this trial will be delivered to the NHS, the FDA equivalent in the United States, in the United Kingdom. If the NHS determines that this trial was critical, was useful in treating chronic pain, it's a trial to determine the efficacy of chronic pain on a single strain of cannabis. If the NHS determined that this trial was valid in treating chronic pain, RYAH would be open to an additional 7 million chronic pain patients in the United Kingdom. 7 million. And we would have to be selected because we're inside the trial. So it's not just about a 50,000 patient study. It's not just about getting trials around the world. It's replicating massive national scale capabilities, using our device and data to validate these trials, and then becoming part of a wider network. That's why we feel confident with the hockey stick approach to the revenues.
Okay. Question somebody was asking here about.
Expand on RYAH.
RYAH, where is that? Okay, here we go. There we go. RYAH.
Go ahead, Jordan. Just give it a background.
Yeah, so the main issue with cannabis as a medicine is that doctors just don't have the confidence in prescribing cannabis as a medicine because the dosing conversation is a mystery to a lot of these doctors. A lot of times a patient will meet with a doctor will say, okay, I approve you for medical cannabis use. And then the patient really just goes to a dispensary, and it's the bud tenders or the people who work at the dispensary who are the ones recommending the products that the patient should buy and how they should consume and how much they should consume every now and then. And what RYAH does is RYAH gives doctors the confidence to control that dosing conversation. So it allows them with the RYAH inhaler to set a specific temperature and a specific volume to be inhaled to ensure that the patient is getting that milligram dosage. And then they're able to see their patients actually, adhering to that dosing protocol, or, if they're not, and how they're responding to that. And RYAH is not going to be just for the inhaler. It's going to work for the patch and for the pen as well. And it's just it's our way of enabling doctors to take control of that dosing conversation that they currently don't have control of.
And again, the evolution of RYAH is not constrained to RYAH devices. We are open to using other devices and other methods of administration. So we see, again, wider lens. We see RYAH as an opportunity to become a EHR system for all in cannabis, not just for RYAH devices. So there's opportunities for other partners who have different delivery mechanisms to lock into RYAH and integrate their dosing into that capability as well. There's a lot of opportunity with RYAH. Again, never been done before in this space. New ground. We continue to innovate. That's a big one.
Okay. Let's see. We haven't. Any other questions here? Okay, so yeah, so Marcel is make a comment that this is could be beneficial for people with memory issues in terms of or in general people why should people have to think about it's a lot of stuff, a lot of data. I mean, no people want to make their lives easy, right? So this definitely definitely does that. So I want to get back to the question in terms of the value of the stock. That's going to be driven by what kind of milestone, because it's the revenue is not. I don't think that we can really value it based on the revenues right now. I mean, I don't think, and those revenues are really the that's like product stuff. It's not the data. The data is really where you're going to make the real money.
Yeah, I mean, again, the milestones are, again, medical device certification to become statutory insurance reimbursement, and makes it a lot easier for clinics to administer the products. And medical device certification gives us the opportunity to get into areas where others can't. Hospitals, research facilities. There's money in this. There's NIH grants waiting to be deployed here and globally for this type of these type of products. But again, a lot of them do require certifications, and we're there. Product launches is a milestone, as I mentioned, Jack. 2 big products coming out. The Ryah MD will be a subscription model, and the Ryah Patch, again, is a razor blade model that allows us to also launch a wellness line. We've already established a wellness line. We're working on a separate THC-free legal entity for Ryah Wellness. We're working with large pharmaceutical chains in the South and Midwest of the United States who want to put the Ryah Patch in their stores for what it may be for caffeine patches, again, for the truck drivers. It could be melatonin patches. It could be, again, immunity patches like vitamin D, all of them controlled with the power of the brain. So, large pharmaceutical chains, I can't say who, have a lot of interest in new technologies that are affordable that could sit in these stores. And we're looking at very large sponsors to help support the launch of our wellness line. Now, we've never been in the retail space before, but it's too much of a low-hanging fruit for us to ignore. So we have very good and strong retail advisors, ambassadors, who will help the companies develop the Ryah wellness line and to get the retail audience comfortable and understand the Ryah story. That is a completely different vertical that we haven't tapped in before, and we're extremely excited about that. So there is a lot of milestones happening in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months that will transform this company. This company will go from a startup to a corporation very quickly.
Okay. And I think, so Tuesday just came out with news that you're shipping product to Germany now, right?
Correct. This is the beginning. So we're laying the groundwork for massive clinical trials, massive distribution as a medical device, and we can do pilot programs under the study rule. We don't have to be a medical device to start the study rule, the studies, the pilots, and that gives us an opportunity to understand the usability, different cultures and different languages, understanding if they need different type of cartridges, if a pharmaceutical model doesn't allow for a finished product inside the pharmacy and maybe the patient has to pack some themselves. There's other types of usability studies, and we also get paid for those devices as well. So this is the groundwork. This is where we put, rubber to the road, prove what we've talked about. We're starting to deliver devices. They're starting to be tested, and they will start to be used, hopefully at massive scale, once we get the certifications we need.
Okay, so it sounds like you got a lot of things on track right now. A lot of exciting things happening. Greg, listen. So I think we're pretty much. I think we're out of time now. Let's do this. Let's catch up with your next news announcement, and then we'll expand on that. I think once people understand the Ryah story, we should see some some interesting things start to happen with the stock.
Absolutely, we agree.
Okay. On that note, okay, Greg, thank you, and thank you everybody for joining our live stream today, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.